The grand hall of the Elysian Dominion was not a place made for humans. The floor was built from glowing crystal, live with tiny streams of blue light running through it like rivers under ice. The ceiling was so high that the air itself seemed to shimmer, and the walls carried ancient carvings of victories no outsider could read. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. And now it was silent. Hundreds of Elysian nobles, soldiers, and officials stood in perfect rows. Their tall, lean bodies were wrapped in silver fabrics that reflected the light like calm water. Their skin was dark as night and smooth like glass, and their eyes glowed softly in different shades: emerald, violet, and gold. They were known across 10 star systems as rulers. As the race no one challenged, at the center of the hall stood the Queen of Alicia. She was taller than everyone. Dressed in deep black robes threaded with living silver vines that moved as if they were alive, a golden crown floated just above her head, spinning slowly. Her eyes were bright green, almost blinding. Her presence filled the room like gravity. Her roar had shaken the pillars. "Who dared to touch my daughter?" The words rolled through the hall like thunder trapped inside crystal. No one moved. No one breathed too loudly. Even the air seemed to tremble. Behind her, half hidden by the royal guard, stood her daughter, the young princess. She looked nothing like the terrifying figure of her mother. Her glow was softer, her movements unsure. She held her hands close to her chest, as if still feeling the warmth of that moment. The rumor had spread through the court like wildfire. Someone, a human, had touched her hand. It was not an insult in human culture. It was a simple act, a way to help. But for the Elysians, a touch like that was never just a touch. It was a bond, a silent, powerful message. "I claim to stand beside you. I dare to face your fate with mine." No outsider had ever made that gesture to royal blood. The nobles looked around nervously. Someone whispered, "A human. That can't be true. They wouldn't dare. The Queen will crush whoever it was." The Queen raised her hand and silence returned. "Bring forward," she said slowly, her voice colder than the stars, "the one who believes they can touch Elysian royalty." The giant doors at the back of the hall opened with a deep, slow sound. A figure walked in, not tall, not glowing, not wearing silk or armor. A man, his name was Aaron Cole, 28 years old. A mechanic. Not a soldier. Not a noble. Just a human from Earth who had come to Alicia to work on starships as part of a new, diplomatic agreement. His boots clicked against the crystal floor with every step. His hands were at his sides, not raised in defense. His back was straight, his face calmed up brave. Not foolish, just calm, like someone who already understood what he was walking into. Elysians stared at him as if a shadow had walked into sunlight. The princess's eyes widened. She recognized him instantly. Aaron had been the one who pulled her back from the collapsing walkway in the lower docks 2 days ago. The starship engines had malfunctioned, a platform had broken apart, and she had been seconds away from falling into the deep maintenance shaft. He hadn't known she was royalty at the time. He hadn't thought. He had just acted. He grabbed her hand. He pulled her to safety. And in that simple human moment, everything changed. Aaron reached the center of the hall. He stopped a few meters away from the Queen's throne. His heart beat fast in his chest, but his face didn't show it. He had seen war once, not as a soldier, but as a civilian, caught in the wrong place. He knew what fear felt like. This wasn't it. This was something else. The Queen's glowing eyes fixed on him like twin suns. "You are the one," she said. Aaron nodded slowly. "I am. You touched my daughter." "Yes," he said. The hall gasped. Elysians did not answer the Queen so directly. Their language was filled with layers of ritual and submission. But humans were different. Aaron did not know their ways. And even if he did, he would not lie. The Queen stood tall, her shadow covering the floor around him like a black sea. "Do you understand what that means?" she asked. "I don't know all your customs," Aaron replied honestly. "But I know I saved her life." Sound like wind through glass filled the room, the sound of shocked Elysians whispering. "Saved her?" One of the nobles repeated softly. How dare he speak like that? Hissed another. The queen raised a hand and silence crushed the whispers again. Tell me. She said, how did a human, a worker, come to lay hands on my blood? Aaron met her eyes. They glowed brighter than any human could stand, but he didn't look away. She was in danger, he said. The walkway collapsed. I didn't think about titles or ranks. I just saw someone falling. I grabbed her hand. The queen tilted her head slightly. It was the smallest movement, but the entire hall felt it like a shift in gravity. You touched her, she repeated. To save her, Aaron said. And you did not let go. Aaron's jaw tightened. Not in defiance, but in memory. Because she was afraid. I could feel her hand shaking. So I held on until she was safe. For a moment, the queen said nothing. The hall was silent except for the soft hum of the crystal floor beneath their feet. Then she stepped down from her throne. The air grew colder. Elysian nobles stiffened. It was rare for the queen to walk down from the throne she ruled from above. She stopped, only 2 steps away from Aaron. He could feel the energy radiating from her, like standing near the heart of a reactor. Do you know who I am? Human? Aaron nodded once. You're the queen. Do you fear me? He took a breath. I should, he admitted. But right now I don't. The nobles gasped again. One of the guards took a step forward, but the queen lifted her hand slightly, stopping them. Her glowing eyes narrowed not in anger, but in interest. And why not? She asked. Aaron thought for a moment. It wasn't a trick question. It wasn't even about courage. Because fear doesn't change what happened, he said. I saved someone. That's all. The queen stared at him. For thousands of years, every species that came before her throne either bowed or begged. None had ever stood there like this, not trembling, not proud, just honest. Her daughter, still behind the guards, felt her heart race. She remembered that moment at the docks, the world falling, his hand reaching out, his voice steady, even when the metal screamed around them. It had not felt like a claim. It had felt like safety. The queen turned slightly toward her daughter. Is this true? She asked softly. The princess stepped forward. The guards tensed, but didn't stop her. Her silver robes shimmered as she walked. Her voice was quiet but clear. Yes, mother, she said. He saved me. The queen looked back at Aaron. The hall felt like a blade balanced on its edge. Do you know what happens to those who make a claim upon Elysian royalty? She asked. Aaron swallowed but kept his voice steady. No, they are judged, she said. By me? The nobles leaned forward, hungry for spectacle. Some hoped to see the human punished. Others were simply curious. Alicia had not had a case like this in living memory. The queen began to circle him slowly. Every step she took made the air heavier. You are small, she said softly. You have no power, no army, no name in my stars. Aaron did not respond. He simply stood still, letting her words fall like cold rain. And yet, she continued, you dare to stand here. In my hall, unbound, unbowed, he finally spoke. Because I did nothing wrong? Her glowing eyes flashed. And if I decide otherwise? Aaron took a slow breath. Then I'll still know what I did. I saved someone. That won't change. Something shifted in the queen's expression. Not anger, not fury. Something quieter. A memory perhaps of a time before the crown, before the weight of power. The princess watched, her heart pounding. She had seen 1,000 beings bow to her mother. She had never seen anyone stand. One of the nobles broke the silence. Your Majesty, he said carefully. This is unacceptable. He must. The queen raised a hand, and the noble fell silent instantly. Her voice filled the hall again. Tell me, human, she said, when you reached out your hand. What did you feel? Aaron blinked, surprised by the question, but he answered anyway. I felt her hand shaking. I felt how cold the wind was. I felt metal breaking under us. I felt like if I let go, she'd fall, and I didn't let go. The queen stared at him for a long time. So long that the nobles began to shift uncomfortably. Elysians were not used to pauses. They were used to commands. Finally, die. The queen turned away from him and walked slowly back toward her throne. A touch, she said softly, her voice carrying across the room. A touch, in our culture, is a claim, a bond, a promise. Aaron remained silent. He could feel the weight of 1,000 eyes pressing against him. But sometimes, the queen continued, a touch is something else. A choice made in a single moment. A hand reaching out when no one else will. She sat on her throne again. The floating crown spun slowly above her head. Do you claim my daughter, human? The question hit the hall like a comet. The nobles froze. The princess held her breath. Aaron's chest tightened. He understood now. If he said yes, it would be a bonda, political, cultural, unbreakable tie. If he said no, he might insult the queen. But he didn't come here to play their games. He came here because he wouldn't let someone rewrite what happened. No, he said clearly. I don't claim anyone. I just saved her. The hall gasped. Some nobles actually stepped back, as if his words were dangerous. But the queen, she laughed. It wasn't a cruel laugh. It wasn't loud. It was low, like a quiet storm rolling in the distance. The nobles looked at her in confusion. A simple answer, she said. No fear, no greed, no clever tricks. She leaned forward slightly on her throne. You interest me, human. Aaron didn't know what to say, so he didn't say anything. The queen turned to her daughter. And you, she asked. What do you say of this? The princess stepped forward. She was shaking a little, but not from fear. From something else. Something new, I say, she said softly. He saved me when no one else was there. And he asked for nothing. The queen studied her for a moment, then nodded slowly. She looked at Aaron again. You may go, she said at last. For now, the nobles erupted into whispers. Some couldn't believe it. Others tried to guess what it meant. A human? Released? Aaron blinked, surprised. That's it? The queen tilted her head. Do not mistake my mercy for weakness, human. I am not finished with you. But I will not punish someone for saving my daughter's life. Aaron nodded once. He didn't bow. He didn't run. He simply turned and walked out the way he came in. As his boots echoed through the hall, the queen watched him with eyes that glowed like 2 stars. When the doors closed behind him, she whispered softly, so softly only the princess could hear, for the first time in 10,000 years. Someone stood. The court would remember this day. The day a human walked forward when all others stood still. The day the Queen of Elysia saw something no power could command. A simple, unshakable will. And deep inside her heart, the princess held the warmth of that hand, the one that didn't let go, to be continued. The palace never slept after that day, even though the queen had said only a few words, you may go. Those words were enough to shake the entire Elysian dominion. For centuries, no outsider had walked out of the queen's throne room after touching a royal. The news spread fast, across the silver towers of Elysia, the star stations, and even through human colonies far away. People whispered the same sentence. A human stood before the queen and was not broken. For some, it was a story of luck. For others, a sign that something in the galaxy had changed. But for Aaron Cole, it was just the beginning. A heavy skyrun walked alone on the palace's long glass bridge the next morning. The sky above Elysia was always shifting, painted with soft colors of blue and gold that never looked the same twice. Below, floating gardens and crystal towers glittered like stars trapped underwater. It was beautiful, but it didn't feel calm anymore. Guards followed him wherever he went, not aggressively but like shadows. People stared at him. Some bowed slightly. Some whispered, some looked at him as if he had no right to exist here. He understood. He had broken something, not a rule maybe, but a wall. Aaron stopped at the edge of the bridge and placed his hand on the cold railing. He could still remember the queen's voice. Deep and powerful. He could still feel the weight of the entire court pressing down on him, and somewhere inside, Under all the fear and confusion was a quiet feeling. Not pride, not regret. Just a simple truth: he would do it again. He heard footsteps behind him. Light, careful, familiar. "You're awake early," said a soft voice. Aaron turned. The princess stood a few steps away, wrapped in a simple silver cloak. No guards followed her this time. Her glowing eyes were calm, not like yesterday in the throne room. "I couldn't sleep," Aaron admitted. She walked up beside him, leaning on the railing too. The wind gently moved her hair, making the glowing strands shimmer. "Neither could I," she said quietly. "The court hasn't stopped talking since last night." "I figured," Aaron said. They stood there for a moment in silence. Alicia's sky hummed softly as small floating birds passed overhead. Aaron had never seen anything like them teeny creatures made of. Light and feathers that changed color with the wind. The princess broke the silence first. "They think you're dangerous." Aaron raised an eyebrow. "I saved someone from falling." "Yes," she said, looking at him. "And you stood in front of my mother." "No one does that." "Not Alicians." "Not anyone." Aaron gave a small smile. "Maybe they should." She laughed softly. It was a small, quiet sound. "You don't understand how different you are," she said. "Here, everything is built on order, on knowing your place. No one questions it. But you stood there like the rules didn't matter." Aaron looked out at the sky again. "Where I come from, sometimes rules need to be questioned." The princess watched him. There was something in his voice, something she had never heard before. Not arrogance, not rebellion, just calm certainty. "What's your home like?" she asked. He thought for a moment. "Messy," he said with a small laugh. "Loud, unpredictable. People fight a lot. But we also help each other. We build things. We fall. We get back up. You sound proud." "Maybe I am," he said softly. She smiled. "Good." The council's game, their quiet moment, didn't last long. By midday, Aaron was summoned again, not to the throne room this time, but to the royal council chamber. The chamber was a round room with walls that changed color with the light, making it feel alive. 12 Elysian counselors stood around a tall, glowing table. Each of them was a high noble, powerful in their own right. The queen sat at the head of the table, her crown floating above her. As always, Aaron entered the room with careful steps. The queen's eyes met his immediately. "Aaron Cole," she said, her voice calm but strong. "Today you will speak before the council." The counselors turned their glowing eyes to him. One of them stepped forward. He was tall, thin, with eyes like molten silver. "Human," he said, his voice sharp. "You touched the princess. You challenged our laws without meaning to. And yet the queen let you live. Do you know what that means?" Aaron met his gaze. "It means I told the truth." The counselor's lips curved slightly, not in a smile, but in irritation. "It means," he said slowly, "the queen saw something worth questioning, but we do not." Another counselor, a woman with violet eyes, spoke next. "You are a guest in our empire. Your kind has only recently stepped into the stars. You are fragile." Aaron stayed silent, letting her finish. "You should not stand where stronger species kneel." Aaron took a slow breath. "Maybe strength isn't about who kneels," he said. "Maybe it's about who stands." The chamber grew quiet. Elysians did not like being spoken to this way. But the queen did not stop him. Another counselor stepped forward. "The people are watching," he said. They whisper. "If we allow this human to walk free, others may think they can do the same." "Good," Aaron said, before he could stop himself. The chamber froze. The queen tilted her head slightly. Her lips curved not in anger, but in the smallest trace of interest. "Explain," she said softly. Aaron swallowed and stepped forward. "If people think they can stand up, maybe they should. Maybe that's not something to fear. And if they stand against us?" One counselor snapped. Aaron shook his head. "I didn't stand against anyone. I just didn't fall." Queen raised her hand slightly, and the room fell silent again. Her eyes burned like twin stars as she studied the human in front of her. "Council," she said softly, "you fear what you do not understand. You fear chaos," the silver-eyed noble replied. The queen leaned back on her throne. "Then perhaps," she said, "it is time you learn what chaos can build." The counselors exchanged uneasy looks. The queen's word was final. But even they knew this was not an ordinary situation. The choice, when the council meeting ended, the queen summoned Aaron to her private chamber. It was smaller than the throne room quiet. It's filled with floating lights and walls that looked like moving water. She stood near the window, looking out over her empire. For a long time she didn't speak. Aaron stood behind her, unsure if he should say anything. Finally, she turned. "Human," she said, "you have caused a storm." Aaron gave a small shrug. "I didn't mean to." "I know," she said, "and that is why it is dangerous." He frowned. "Dangerous." "Yes. A storm that is planned can be controlled. A storm that arrives without warning can change everything." Aaron waited. "My people see you as a challenge," she said softly. "Some want you gone. Some want to use you as a symbol. A few want to destroy what you represent." Aaron crossed his arms. "And what do I represent?" The queen's glowing eyes locked on his. A choice. A different way to stand in front of power. Aaron felt the weight of her words. She was not just talking about him. She was talking about all humans, and maybe even the Elysians themselves. She stepped closer, her robes moving like water. "Tell me, human, if I told you to kneel, would you?" Aaron met her eyes. He thought of Earth. He thought of people fighting storms and standing back up. He thought of the moment when he reached out his hand without thinking. "No," he said quietly. The queen's lips curved into the smallest smile. "Good," Aaron blinked. "Good. If you had knelt," she said, "you would have proved my counsel right. But you did not." She turned back to the window. "You have no idea how rare that is here." The princess speaks that evening. Another meeting was called. Not with nobles, not with soldiers, but with the people. The queen had ordered a public gathering in the Grand Hall of Voices, a massive amphitheater that floated in the sky. Tens of thousands of Elysians stood in silence as the queen stepped onto the central platform. Aaron was there too, surrounded by guards, unsure why he was part of this. The queen's voice carried across the air like a song made of thunder. "My people," she began, "you have heard the whispers? You know the story? A human touched the hand of a princess. A human stood in my hall. The crowd stirred, whispers like wind across water, for 10,000 years. The queen continued, "No outsider has stood in this place and walked away. But yesterday, one did." The crowd's whispers grew louder. Some voices were angry, some curious. Then the queen turned toward Aaron. "He is not a warrior. He is not a noble. He holds no weapon. He has no power." Aaron shifted uncomfortably as thousands of glowing eyes fell on him. "And yet," the queen said, "he did what no one else has done. He stood." The crowd was silent now. Then the queen did something no one expected. She stepped back and let her daughter, the princess, step forward. The princess's voice was soft, but it carried. "He didn't touch me to claim me," she said. "He touched me to save me. He didn't look at me like a princess. He looked at me like a person." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Elysians were not used to hearing their royals speak so openly. "I was falling," she said, and no one moved. "Except him," Princess turned to Aaron. For a moment, they locked eyes, not as human and Elysian, not as mechanic and princess, but as two people who had shared a single, unshakable moment. Then she faced her people again. "If this is what it means to stand," she said softly, "then maybe we should remember how to stand too." The air in the amphitheater changed. It wasn't loud. It wasn't a revolution. But something quiet shifted in thousands of hearts. The queen's decision when the gathering ended.
Oh.
The queen returned to the throne room. The council was already waiting for her, whispering in panic. "This is dangerous," one said. "The people are unsettled. another added. He's just a human, someone hissed. Why give him a voice? The queen raised her hand, and the room fell silent. Because, she said slowly, the voice is not his alone. It is what he woke up in others. She turned to Aaron, who stood before her once more. You have done something no army ever could, human. You made Elysians listen. Ron wasn't sure how to respond. He wasn't trying to be a hero. He just didn't want to see someone fall. The queen stepped down from her throne, just as she had the first day. But this time, her voice was different. Warmer. Quieter. In our history, strength has always meant power, she said. But today, strength meant something else. She extended her hand not to claim, not to test, but as a gesture of respect. Aaron Cole of Earth, she said, you are no longer just a guest in this empire. You are now a recognized voice in the court of Alicia. Aaron froze. Wait, what? The princess laughed softly from the side. She's offering you a seat. The queen's voice echoed again. You stood when no one else did. Now you will stand with us. The roar that night, the stars above Alicia, burned brighter than usual. Across the Dominion, people told the story in their own ways. Some said it was the beginning of something new. Some feared what would come next. But one thing was certain. The galaxy had changed. A single human mechanic had stood before an empire and made them see a different kind of strength. No weapon, no war. Just courage and truth. Aaron stood on the palace balcony, looking at the endless night. The princess stood beside him, her cloak fluttering in the wind. You know they're never going to forget this, right? She said with a small smile. Aaron chuckled. Yeah, I didn't exactly plan it, she said. Some of the best things aren't planned. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The sky stretched out in front of them, filled with thousands of stars. So many places. So many possibilities. Behind them, the queen watched from the shadows. She saw not a threat, not a mistake, but a spark. A spark that would burn through the walls her people had built for centuries. She smiled not as a ruler, but as a mother. Let the stars remember, she whispered. The day a human walked forward, and in the silent night sky, it felt like the stars themselves whispered back.